Hello and welcome to Otterwood Cottage, where we're building a brand new smallholding in the heart of the Lincolnshire countryside. I'm Emma and we're delighted to have you along with us. So you join us at the end of what has been a fantastic week off. And we had two key objectives for the week. The first was to build the second polytunnel structure, which is going to be a Brassica cage. And the second was to plant out the huge number of plants that were sitting in that conservatory there and absolutely desperate to get out. We started the week with loads of peppers that needed putting on, loads of brassicas that needed to come out into the Brassica cage, a whole host of sunflowers that needed to be planted out front, some squash and corn that needed to go out into the field, and a whole host of other plants that needed to be dealt with. So as you can see, the first objective was completed. There is the Brassica cage. If I just spin you around a tiny bit further, in the distance there, you can see just behind that black plastic that's floating in the wind, the corn and the squash, which are out. We also planted out all of these beans. These are all bush beans. And if I just take you over to the new Brassica cage, I can show you what's going on in there. So here we go. Here is the new Brassica cage. So, a couple of things to say. We ran out of compost. So the big pile of compost you may have seen on the introduction there has gone, which is both fantastic and a shame. So it's fantastic because we don't have a pile of compost to move anymore, but it is a bit of a shame because we're now out of compost and out of any funds to be able to buy any more. The budget for compost for this year is well and truly spent, and so we're going to have to make do with what we have and topsoil and so on if we need anything else to go in the ground. This space here, which will be growing space, as you can see, maybe you can see with the I'll take you out and show you in a second. The squash and the corn out there have gone straight into the ground, and I'm mulching that with whatever we have to hand to mulch. So what we decided to do is, rather than be sad about the fact we didn't have any compost, I wanted an outside area to be able to use for a little potting table. Now it's getting warmer and drier, and also to protect seedlings that needed to be outside, really don't need to be in the polytunnel or conservatory because it's too hot for them. But I didn't want to just put them on the floor somewhere because they're too small and they will get slugged. So we've used this space where there might have been bed had we had enough compost, to instead have a little staging potting area. So here are all the brassicas that I didn't feel were quite big enough yet to go in the ground. I was a bit worried they would get slugged. They're not quite big enough. Some more leeks. Oh, we're going to have leeks coming out of our ears. But what has gone in the ground in here, we have some Asturian tree cabbage. We have a lone Brussels sprout. There are some more little seedlings, but none of the rest were quite big enough. A couple of kale have gone in. Some more of those to come behind. Some all the year round cauliflower, a couple of which are sulking because I've literally just put them in. But there's two different sowings there, so they should come at different times. And then there's a third sowing in the seedling pile, and I'll keep those successional sowing. And then one red cabbage, again, there's some more to go in, but they were too little to go out. And all along here we have quick heading calabrese, effectively broccoli. Again, 3 different sowings, so you can see they're different sizes and sulking a bit because they've just gone in, but looking fantastic for a nice successional crop of broccoli, hopefully. So there's the Brassica cage. We've got a little bit of finessing to do just around the edges of the doors so that the butterflies can't get in through those. But I'll show you what we've done on the sides to protect. We just come round. So we had some visitors this weekend, my stepbrother and his girlfriend, and they helped out, and we have, along with Wilkes, protected the side gaps from cabbage whites getting in, but we need to, what we're going to do on the inside across the top of the doors is just place another plank of wood that blocks that gap, and also down between the two doors. So this is as sealed as it's reasonable to be for an outside building, but we are really, really pleased with how this turned out in here. The polytunnel has also had some additions, and I'll take you back to the day I popped these peppers in here. Let's go to past me. So the next step in the great planting out is finally getting the cucumbers, the melons and the chillies and sweet peppers that are coming out here into the polytunnel out here. We had what looked like the very last cold snap, fingers crossed, last Thursday night, got down to 0, nearly the end of May, crazy. But the forecast is showing 10 or above for as far forward as I can see now, and although we do seem to have a few degrees below that, they're just going to have to come out now and take their chances if it does fall below 10, because as you can see, they're starting to get far too big to continue to sit in these pots, and we've not got enough potting compost to keep potting them on. It gets too expensive. So they're coming out, fingers crossed they'll do well. So the peppers and the chillies and the melons and the cucumbers are all in. And I'm going to just very quickly show you what I've planted. More for me than you, because these labels are not lasting. I didn't really think they would. So if I say it on video, then if I get confused later, I can always come back to this and remind myself of what's planted where. I'm going to turn you around and walk you through what we've planted in the poly. Okay, starting in the middle where the garnet tomatoes were, I did sacrifice a second garnet that just wasn't looking happy. I mean, that one's not looking happy either, but it didn't look like it was doing anything at all. So I decided to just cut my losses and go with a melon in its place. So we have Minnesota midget down the middle. I'll come back to the chillies and the peppers. We have a Prescott Fond melon, a sugar baby watermelon, another Minnesota midget there, followed by a sugar baby watermelon, Prescott Fond, sugar baby watermelon, and a Minnesota midget. So that is the melons on this side. On this side we have 2 Tamara cucumbers and 3 Dragon's Egg mini cucumbers with a Tamara cucumber at the end here. And then moving on to the chillies and the peppers. Now all of them have needed staking. I've never had to stake a pepper in my entire life. So we haven't got the right kind of supports for them. What they really need are those kind of conical supports that allow them to bush out but keep them contained. I haven't got any of those. I will investigate getting some. So for now, they're just tied up, which isn't perfect, but it's fine. So these two are sweet spirals. And then going from this end, we have jalapenos. So I've planted them in pairs. Jalapenos. These ones are, what are you? The Amy Sweet Wax. Amy Sweet Wax there. These are the rainbow chillies. I'm excited for those. I think they're going to look really beautiful when they start to fruit. These ones here are the Zitavel, which I think are the paprika. They're the paprika peppers. So we'll be able to make, hopefully, our own paprika out of those. Next in the line, we have mystery unlabeled pepper. I'll come back to that. These are the prairie fires. These are the only ones that didn't need staking because they're little teeny tinies. And these ones are already too damaged to tell. What are these? So these two are the padron peppers, which means these two are the orange lipstick. So orange, let's see if we can remember. Orange lipstick, prairie fire, padron, Zitavia, rainbow chilli, Amy Sweet Wax, jalapeno, sweet spirals. Everybody got that? So today's Tuesday and the first official day of our week off, because yesterday was a bank holiday. And as you can probably hear, we have some much needed and very welcome rain today. So we are doing inside jobs to stay out of the rain, even though we are a good way through getting the second polytunnel structure up, which this year is going to be a Brassica cage, and then hopefully next year we're going to recover as a second poly and build a Brassica cage in the same style as our fruit cage on the space next to this polytunnel. So that's the long-term plan, but for this year we are making that structure, which I'll turn you around and show you in a second, our Brassica cage for this year. We're just keeping the one poly, but it's become really clear already this growing season that we would love more polytunnel space next year, and so that structure will serve two different purposes over the course of 2 years. So today, with the rain coming down, I'm going to take advantage of having some undercover space and plant out some marigolds, some Genovese, is that how you say it, basil, and some lemon basil that I've got growing. I'm having real trouble with marigolds this year. I've only managed to get 3 to germinate to any kind of decent size. I've got some more coming along behind them that are still teeny tiny, but the germination rates on marigolds just seem to be atrocious, and I think watching other YouTubers, it seems to be a common thing. Why would that be? Must have been a weird year last year for saving seed from marigolds for some reason. And the basil I'm planting out is a little bit smaller than I would have liked, really, but it just doesn't seem to be coming along inside, and I can't keep holding stuff inside the conservatory because it's just getting ridiculous. So I'm going to pop it out, but cross my fingers and hope that it does well in here. The nights are much warmer now, so, and especially with the cloud and the rain, they're going to be really nice and warm for the next couple of nights. So that's the plan for today. And then the other thing that I want to do in here is to pop up some stringing in here at this end of the polytunnel behind where you are, ready to pop in some loofah. So I have some loofah growing. They're teeny tiny seedlings at the moment. I don't even think they've got their true leaves yet, but I was watching Claire at our farmyard garden, and hers are unbelievable. They're like Day of the Triffids. I don't know what you've been doing, Claire, to get your loofahs to grow so fast, but if these, fingers crossed, get anything close to hers, they're going to need quite a lot of space. I haven't really left enough space in here. One of the reasons we're already realising we need a second polytunnel. So I'm going to limit, I think I've got 4 germinated. I'm going to limit them to 2. I'm going to pop them in this corner, which is the only space I've got to pop them, and then create some stringing that goes across the top of the polytunnel near this end by the second door, and hopefully they'll be able to climb their way across that and create a bit of an arbour in here, which should be quite nice, a bit shade producing come the hottest months, and let's hope we get some loofah. If not, we'll try again next year with a bit more space. So here are the plants that are going in today. My 3 flashback marigolds that I did actually manage to get to germinate, so they're going to go in. And then I've got a few plants of the Genovese basil, and a few of the lemon basil. As I say, they could probably do with being a bit bigger than that before they go in the ground, but they've been in these pots for ages and not making much progress, so let's see how they get on. There we go, jobs 1 and 2 completed. So we've got the Genovese basil in the gaps along this side, and the lemon basil in the gaps along this side. It looks teeny tiny, doesn't it? I hope it does okay in here. And then just turning around, I have rather hopefully built the structure for the 2 loofah to grow up, and then they can grow along there if they get that large. Now I can already foresee a potential issue with this, and the issue I can see is I've used jute string, which I've always used in the past to tie up tomatoes, but I think I've said before I've always used canes with the jute just to hold the canes up. What I'm noticing for the first time this year is the jute string is in a couple of cases splitting at the bottom where it's been repeatedly getting wet from being watered, and if the loofahs do grow to the potential size they may grow to, then I think the weight may well not only break the string at the bottom, which isn't the end of the world if it breaks at the bottom because you can just do running repairs on that, but it may well break on one of these upright structures, horizontal structures going up to the ceiling across the poles. So I have triple wound it, which hopefully has added some strength, but if it does break, I can see why people do use the plastic rope or the bungee, which I've always tried to avoid. But I guess if you're using and reusing every year and it doesn't break, there is justification for using that rather than continually using the jute string, which I tend to use because you can chop it up and compost it if it does start to rot. So we'll see how it goes. I may not get any loofahs anyway. It may be a moot problem that doesn't come to light. Now I was going to use these canes, which we bought this morning from the garden centre, to start to create some sort of structures around these bigger peppers that want to bush out, but I've got tied up quite tight to stop them kind of encroaching on the melons and stuff around them. I was going to try and create a bit of a structure with some bamboo canes and string, but I have used up all the string that we have, which is a bit annoying because I thought we had more and would be able to use it, and we were just at the garden centre so I could have picked more up had I known. But I will order some more, and that can be a job for another day. We've also got these bamboo canes, which are from our own bamboo that we're growing out on the field. I don't want to use those until they've had a good chance to dry, because otherwise they'll root in here and then I'll have bamboo in the polytunnel, which is definitely not what I want. So I need to do a bit of research to figure out how long they need to be allowed to dry before they are safe to use as poles and uprights. So that's as much as I can do in here for now without any more string. So I'm going to head on doors for some potting on some moving around, and hopefully we're going to get that conservatory cleared this week. So the bush beans we've got in are yin yang here, and then the next patch here are Streonta. They're drying beans, as are the yin yangs. These are all bush beans, mostly for drying along here. These ones are the Jacob's cattle, and then we have just a couple. We didn't have great germination on these ones, so I'm going to re-sow. I think I'm going to direct sow in these spaces. So there's just one of those, Aida Gold, but I have grown those before with some success, so I'm going to give that a go with some direct sowing. And these ones are Maxidor. We only had 2 of those, and they're not looking very happy actually in the ground, so I will, again, I'll replant those, direct sowing, and see how they do. I'm just going to spin you around here because I think in a previous video I said I thought that the rabbits had completely destroyed the celery and celeriac, but as you can see they are trying to make a comeback. Quite how well they'll do, I'm not sure. The courgettes, on the other hand, really haven't survived. I think that's more cold than rabbits. That one might make a comeback. I've got some more seedlings in the polytunnel at the moment, so I will have plenty of courgettes. The second chaos bed not doing great, but at the back there are some beetroot coming and some chard, so there will be something in that bed, but I think probably I'm going to give it a little bit longer and then maybe have to give that one up. But this chaos bed's doing a little bit better. Radishes are coming along, carrots are coming along, some chard, we've got some beetroot, we've got some flashback calendula coming there, borage here. So there's a few things coming along in there. Again, not doing as well as perhaps I'd hoped, but I do wonder if maybe I tried sowing that bed a little bit early because of the cold nights that I've spoken about before. But I'm just going to let it go, see what happens. It will go to seed, I'm sure. Everything in here we're going to allow to go to seed, carrots, radish, everything, and see what happens with this bed here. And then the other thing to show you out here, up close, is the corn and the squash. So I've got 2 types of squash out here, Waltham butternut and the summer crookneck. So 2 types of squash. Squash are planted around the edge and they'll be able to scramble across the floor, hopefully help suppress some of the weeds. As you can see, we've gone straight into the ground here, and I'm starting to mulch that with grass clippings, being careful to use grass clippings that haven't got any seed heads on them. I don't want this to just turn into a grassy patch, but without any compost left and without wanting to purchase or being able to purchase any more just now, we're just mulching with what we have to hand. And one of the things we have tons of is grass clippings, so we're going to see how that goes. The leek bed is looking a bit dry, but otherwise they're doing okay. And I've also used grass clippings as mulch for our beans, the climbing beans going up there. Peas are looking fantastic. I need to just string those back a bit so that they start to climb the fence. In here are some very sad looking, in fact I don't think you can even see them against the grass that's behind them, but these are supposed to be Trail of Tears climbing beans, but you can see they are not looking very happy at all. I'm not 100% sure what the issue is with those, but I do have some spares, so I am going to direct sow some spares here. This is where I've been using the grass clippings as mulch. The Emergo runner beans are bouncing back, looking pretty good, and the Greek gigantes similarly are really coming along and looking, this one in particular, look, is looking fabulous. And there is a third place I've used this mulch, which is out in the front garden for our sunflowers. So I'll take you to past me to show you what we did out there. So I'm trying a new technique. Excuse the hand to the mouth. But it's so windy today. I'm really worried you're not going to pick up any of this. Anyway, planting out the sunflowers that were part of the big plant out, we're trying a new technique. This space here, so this is the main road that we approach our house, and as you can see, the verge is absolutely stunning with meadow flowers and wildflowers. It's really pretty. And all of the sunflowers that I've been bringing on in the conservatory, I have planted along the fence line. The idea being these are all quite tall sunflowers, so they should be poking their happy heads up above the fence line as we drive towards the house. So we're really looking forward to that. But because I didn't have enough compost, I have instead planted them straight into the grass. I just made a really small hole and planted them straight in, surrounded them with a tiny bit of potting compost that was in their pots with them, and then I'm using this grass clippings, which we have in abundance. All of this was taken before any of the grass went to seed, so there shouldn't be any grass seeds in there to make life difficult, and using that as a thick mulch to try and suppress the grass and this lawn is mostly buttercup, as you can probably see, so to try and suppress the creeping buttercup. We'll see if it works or not. It might be that I have to keep coming out and weeding it, but and it may be that the sunflowers don't survive. They are really sulking, as you can see, about having been moved. They're having a right old huff, but I think they'll cheer up. So we'll keep you informed as to how that works. I've never done it before. I've been using the grass clippings elsewhere as mulch on top of compost, and I've been using it to edge the chaos bed to try and stop the growth around there, but I've not done planting straight into them without compost underneath, so see how it goes. The chickens are having a bit of an upgrade this week, so the first thing we're doing for them is starting to plant a chicken buffet. Hello, hey, a chicken buffet. So we're starting to build a bed along this side of their run, which we are planting lots of yummy things for chickens, which as they get big enough and robust enough for them to be able to start pecking at, we'll push up against the chicken wire and give them lots of nice snacks to graze. And we're going to do that with herbs and various brassicas along this whole edge. And then their other upgrade, which we're just in the process of doing now, is now they've settled in their new home, they've got some extra space being added around their run so that they can come out and do some additional browsing. And we've also popped, I think you can see, some of our wood into their run for some excitement and adventure when they're inside. You're doing well, aren't you, hey-heys? We've had them a week and 2 days, and we've had 30 eggs already, so we're pretty happy with that. And there we go. Chooks are having a wonderful time. Conservatory is back to being a conservatory. All those potting tables have been removed, and all we've got left in here is 2 each of the varieties of peppers and chillies we're growing, which are part of the experiment to see what does best between in here, in the polytunnel, and the last few. I'll just whiz you around and show you where we've put those. And I'll also give you an update on something else that's been happening this week, because you'll see evidence of some scaffolding on the house, which is up for our, look, on both sides. So that is up for the solar panels to go on the roofs, which is super exciting. And then look at this climbing rose. How beautiful is that? Sorry, I'm immediately distracted from what I'm supposed to be showing you, but look how beautiful. I wish I could send the smell down through the screen to you because it just reminds me of being a child and making perfume out of the petals of roses at like your nana's house. It's the most beautiful, stunning rose that we were lucky enough to inherit. There are the peppers. So that's the third part of the experiment. And then if I bring you around past the beautiful scaffolding, this is our other absolute stunner of a rose that we've inherited. Look at that round the door. I mean, you have to excuse the scaffolding in the way, but let's zoom in so you can't see that anymore. Isn't that gorgeous? So pretty. Right, a quick whiz round of what we've been doing. It's been such a busy week. I've not even had time really to film, but hopefully you feel caught up. You can see what we've been doing. Look at these poppies. Distracted again. Look how pretty those colours are. Right, I really am signing off now. So, hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all soon.